It is 7:18. We're going to call tonight's meeting to order. Yes, a very, very happy birthday to Philip. My goodness. And you're spending it here with us. Thank you very, very much. It is really nice to see everybody, and I want to say a special shout out. Thank you to Preeti for filling in for me last month. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Preeti. Okay, so let's get back to it. Let's take a look at tonight's agenda. It might be a small agenda, but it is mighty. Do we have any changes that we need to make to tonight's agenda? All right, not hearing or seeing any. We will move right along. Do we have any public comment tonight?
Yes, we have Mr. Carl Argila.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Argila. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Eric, I assume I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
That's great. Thank you. Good evening, board. Once again, my name is Carl Argila. I am the father of Cavan Argila, an intellectually disabled deaf client of the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. Tonight's San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center board meeting, including my comments, are being recorded under the provisions of the Bagley-Keene Act and will be posted for public review on my blog at www.sgprc.net. So once again, board, I am requesting that you terminate your conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. As you know, your agency has filed a declaration with probate court opposing my petition to terminate your conservatorship of my son. We had a hearing on that petition just last Friday. My son clearly stated that he did not want to be conserved by you. My son clearly stated that he wanted his family to be his conservator. However, your 3 attorneys were able to maintain your conservatorship. This is such a disappointment because last week, 3 days prior to that hearing, we had an IPP meeting. Mr. Sal Gonzalez was there. And I walked out of that IPP meeting thinking that, well, this is the way regional centers are supposed to work. It was just a great IPP meeting.
Okay, I got it.
And then 3 days
That's
later,
okay.
you're in probate court opposing the termination of your conservatorship of my son. As you know, recently, the Department of Developmental Services has issued guidelines to mitigate conflicts for delegated conservatorships. Those guidelines are supposed to include provisions providing a pathway out of conservatorship for clients who do not want to be conserved. The executive director's designee has now been assigned. That person is Patricia Rambo. Miss Rambo was a member of Keith Penman's management team. Nevertheless, we are hoping that Miss Rambo will act in my son's best interest. Last week at the IPP meeting I made reference to, Miss Rambo met with my son, and my son made it very clear to her that he desired to terminate your conservatorship. I hope that your regional center will respect the guidelines for mitigated conflicts for delegated conservatorships. I noticed that your board-approved version of those guidelines had been watered down a little bit regarding termination of conservatorships. Finally, just a reminder for any parent who's hearing my voice tonight, please take note. No matter how consumer-friendly the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center may appear to be, no matter how many big, broad smiles Julie Chetney flashes, the reality is that that regional center, your regional center, has the power to become your child's conservator and ruin your life. Please assure that the official minutes of this board meeting accurately state that I am requesting that the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center terminate their conservatorship of my son, Cavan Argila. Thank you, board.
Thank you very much. As everyone can tell from our agenda tonight and from previous years, April is a training month for our board of directors. This month is no different. So we will be, as per normal, when we have a training month, holding off on reviewing and approving the previous month's minutes and financial report. So tonight I am very happy and honored to introduce Tony Anderson. He is the Associate Director at ARCA, the Association for Regional Center Agencies, and also a previous Executive Director at Valley Mountain Regional Center. And he is here tonight graciously to talk to us and give us a little bit of insight about the state budget process and legislative advocacy. And we've been talking about this topic for a while now. And then also with the added layer of turmoil that came as a result of the fires in January, and also a change in federal administration, this topic probably could not be more timely. So Tony, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And the Zoom is yours.
Great. Just to let you guys know I'm here.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Tina.
Welcome.
Thank you, Julie. Good to see you again. And I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you all today. We're going to talk about a little bit about the budget process. ARCA, the Association of Regional Centers, also has a sort of a bill file, as we call it. So there's several bills that we have. And I'll give you sort of a walkthrough on our legislative process and how we go through that. And then a lot, though, has been going on recently related to Medicaid. And so I do want to show a little slideshow at the end, just sort of give you a sense of what we've been doing, and then also kind of give you some highlights of what's happening on the national level, because that is unusual for us at the Association of Regional Center Agencies, because we're normally just focused on our state budget, our state, that's all we can handle usually, and of course our bills. But this year it's a whole different year. It's a different world for all of us. So I think what I'll do is I'll run through them. I'm probably not going to run the slideshow until the end, if that works for the group. And then, you have questions, please go ahead and raise your hand at any time, and I'll answer any of those questions the best I can. So first of all, the big thing for us is always the state budget, right? That's usually the biggest item that we're dealing with. And this year, it is different. So the budget that we're dealing with, a few highlights for you is that in the projections of the budget, the government is looking at projecting that we will be serving about 500,000 people by the end of next budget year. And so that is a huge milestone for the California Developmental Services System. Represents pretty aggressive growth. We have seen a lot of growth in our system, and they are expecting about 8.5% growth. It's almost 40,000 new people coming in to the system. So it is a lot. And then, as you can imagine, as you guys probably always talk about, that's a lot of new people, a lot of different things happening, and you have to manage all of that and meet the needs of the community as that continues. And so I know you've been bringing in a lot of new people, a lot of regional centers have, which is very exciting. And but it also means that there's a lot going on. So change is good, but also change can be a little nerve-wracking at times. But that's why, if you're wondering, why does it seem like we're serving so many people? Why does it seem like the work gets more and more? It is the good thing. The good news is that we are finding people that need our services in the regional centers, and then we are able to serve them. So other states, this is not quite the case, right? Because in other states, what you see is once you've met a number, then you stop serving people in the other states. And so California, we are very fortunate to have the entitlement system. And so, but that means that once you're determined eligible in our state, then you're in. And we're committed to supporting every person who comes through and is determined eligible. So that's something that I think that for all of us to be excited about and to be proud about. But that would be why you would see this kind of growth, these kind of growth numbers in the budget this year and every year, but this year a little bit more than before. The other reason for why we're having a little more growth than maybe past years is that we also have been catching up. After COVID, it takes some time for people to come out and feel comfortable, reaching out and starting over. And so we have been finding that the outreach the regional centers have been doing has been very effective, and we have been meeting people where they are. So that's another bit of good news for our system, is that we are starting to come back and catch up. So those are important pieces. The other is that there was a program. There's some small details in the budget that are just sort of highlighting this year, and they have to do with there's the new Public Records Act that there was a bill last year that passed, and so regional centers are now subject to the Public Records Act, and so that's going to cost a little bit of money. They've projected that at almost $10 million for the regional centers operations. And so that's part of it. There's a lot to learn as well in that area, but there's a lot of activity happening there. But that is in the budget. There was pay differential for bilingual staff, and then that piece for the DSPs, so the people in the community, that piece, they're still been working on it, so they backed it out of the current year and they put it into the budget year. And then the same with the DSP University. I don't know if you've been talking about that or no as a regional center, but that's a training program for the direct support professionals, and it's a tiered system. So once they pass one tier, then they would be getting a higher rate of pay. And then if they go through the program and pass the next tier, there's another rate of pay. So the idea there is that you train the staff in the community, and then you pay them for the training because they've got more skills now. And so that program, there's some logistics going on there, and they've also backed that out of this year, but it's in the budget year. So that's why I explained it. That's why I brought it up, is because it will be, once the budget passes, it will be targeted to be implemented. So, which is really good. A lot of people are wanting that, and so a little disappointment that it wasn't done already, because that was the goal, to be done by now. But the logistics have to do with sort of online capacity, and it's a statewide program, and so it's pretty large. But they're confident that they'll be able to be up and running early in the new year. So excited to see that happen, and that's in the budget as well for next year, but backed out this year. And those are kind of sort of the gist of what's in there. There's some other things that, as you're all aware of, the fires and the impact that that's having just on our communities, but also in our state budget. And so there was quite a bit of a need for recovery funds in Southern California area, the Los Angeles area, as you all know. And there was $2.5 billion that came out of the budget right away. So if you already have your budget and it's pretty close, then by the time you get to taking out an additional 2.5, then that's going to impact the budget at some point. But it wasn't expected to have a huge impact. But now we're looking at other factors, such as the delay in the taxes, when they'll be reporting them, and so that's going to have an impact. We won't really know how much money is in the state coffers, so that will throw us off a bit. And then now with the stock market, the crashes and the losses that some folks have experienced so far, there's some anticipation for some problems with our state budget there. Our state budget really relies on people on the income tax base, and there are folks in our state who are pretty well off, and those are the ones who make up the bulk of our state budget. And so those folks of means, as they're impacted, that does hit the state budget pretty hard. And so we're just watching to see how all of that goes. But so it's an odd year for all of us with the budget, because now we don't quite know exactly what's going on. And the budget we got in January, there was a sense pretty soon, within a week or so, that budget was not quite what we were going to be dealing with. And then as time went on, we really got word that really is not a real budget for California. And then now there's been a lot of other things going on. And as we'll talk about the Medicaid issues that are going on the national level, there's anticipation that we will probably see some very significant reductions in our state budget. So that we don't even have a sense of yet. And all that is just to say that when we have our budget hearings, so you get in January, the governor comes out with his budget around the 10th of January. So I know you're all waiting around like we do in Sacramento for that budget to come out, and you're excited to open that up and read the hundreds and hundreds of pages and all those numbers, and then figure out what it means. But that's the 10th. And then within a week or so, the legislature gets at it, and then they start analyzing it, and they start cutting it up in different ways, and it takes on its own life. And so that's the process. And then soon after, around April, that's what we're having this time, you'll start to see the budget hearings, sometimes February, March is a common time, but they'll have budget hearings. And these budget hearings are focused on what the governor said in January. And so it's really important that we make this point, because the hearings are only going to talk about the budget that came out in January. And I just told you, as we all know, that budget is not real for California this time. So these budget hearings, I don't know if you've come up and driven up all the way to Sacramento this year to watch the budget hearings and to be part of them, but they are very different than they've ever been in past years, because they're not talking about very many substantive items in the budget. They're talking about sort of general concepts like the master plan, or workforce and the workforce capacity and the stressors that we have because of the shortages. So these are general policy items that maybe are not discussed in the context of the budget. But this year they were, because what else were they going to talk about? All still waiting on whether or not they knew what the dollars are going to be for our state budget. So we have one more budget hearing, and that's coming up on tomorrow. So if you're not busy, come on up and to Sacramento, and there'll be a budget hearing. It'll be from about 9:30 to 1. You can also watch it on the computer. So it's in the Senate side. And so you can just go onto the Senate website and click on that. And there's right on the front page, it'll tell you that it's happening. And you can watch the budget hearing tomorrow morning. So if you're not busy, it is always good to watch that and see what's going on. And it's good theater. But again, this one is not going to be a normal one for us. The big one will be in May. And so what happens in the budget process is a thing called the may revise, because they don't have time in Sacramento to say the entire word. So it is the May revision, and that's when they revise, they do a revision of the budget because they have new tax dollars reports. And this time, we think they'll have at least enough to let us know where we stand. So the problem, though, for all of us is going to be, we know that the budget cuts are going to happen, and they'll be proposed at those hearings. So this year, I know you probably skipped the May revise because it's not as exciting as the first budget hearing. But this year, I really encourage you to watch for the May revise, because the May revise this year will be the real budget. And there'll be we think a lot of ideas in there that will represent cuts in our system. And we think in all health and human services safety net systems in California. So we're really sort of bracing ourselves. Everything that we have seen so far indicates that we're going to be in a lot of trouble, just on what we've seen on the state level, and not even including what's happening with the federal government. So any questions on how that piece works? Let me end it first. So May revise will occur. We'll all hear what's in there. We'll let them know what we think. We won't have a lot of time to get them to change their mind like we normally do on the budget process. And then by mid-June, they have to be done and handed off to the governor, and the decision has to be made by the end of June. And so technically, they have to complete that budget by June, by the end of June, otherwise nobody gets paid. And so that's their penalty. If they don't do their job, they don't get paid until they finish their job. And so they'll get paid. Don't worry about them. So, but then we'll be done with the budget process, and then we'll do a lot of analysis. And as we always do, we tell all the regional centers what it even means, because a lot of times things are in there and they don't quite make sense to most of us, and then we find out what it really means, and we take that to all of you so that you know what's in there. But that's your timing that you're looking at. Any questions on any of that? I should have brought you good news. I should bring good news next time. Anybody? Yes, Bill.
Tony, thank you. First of all, thank you for explaining the process and kind of the swirling winds right now. I'm a little confused on the one hand, there's entitlement, and on the other hand, we can have budget cuts, and those feels like opposing forces. So can you just sort of shed some light on that?
I'm glad you brought that up. What we know, because we've had an entitlement since 1985. We thought we always had it, but in 1985, the California Supreme Court in ARC versus DDS made a decision that the system was built on an entitlement, meaning that anything that's in your IPP, or your plan there, all your items in there are yours. It's a contract between you, person with a disability, and family members, and the state through the contract with the regional centers, right? So that is, you are entitled to it, whatever's in there. And in 1982, we thought we had it, and it was removed. And so that's why this is a significant time in our history, 85, because we said, yes, we do have it. So we're living forward, 85 on, that's 40 years ago. That's a while ago. I was very young at the time. And so, that was when we established it. But if you recall, we might not remember this, but in 2003, 2004, 2003, Schwarzenegger came into office and proposed to freeze the Lanterman Act. And so because of the ARC versus DDS lawsuit, it kind of gives you, if you're a governor, sort of there's barriers. You can't just say, okay, whatever's in your IPP, you're not going to get it, because it's the law that you're entitled to it. So they're a little bit stuck. And so what Governor Schwarzenegger tried to do back then was freeze it. So he just took the whole Lanterman Act and just said, we'll put it on the shelf until we could afford it. And so the people, there was an uproar. I don't know if you were around when that happened, but 2003, we had huge protests. There were people coming out from miles around, thousands of people at the Capitol on a regular basis to fight against it, a lot of articles and papers. And the governor finally just backed down. So, but that was one way that you could do it. The other was in 2008. We were in big trouble, right? We had a financial crisis back then, and what was being proposed was to capitate any new budgets coming in. So they said what they would do is any new individuals coming through the system, you would get a capitated budget depending on your level of disability of, I think it was something in the neighborhood of 10, 20 to $60,000 a year worth of services, and that would be it. And so that was how they were going to handle it. And basically that's a freeze of the Lanterman Act, if you think about it, right? Because then you've got everybody in the system under the rules of the Lanterman Act, and then all the new people coming in, they're capitated, which is not allowed under Lanterman Act. So there are ways that governors can do this, but I would say always be very careful with the wording that we get, and that, just pay attention when they get proposed in certain ways, because if they are proposed in a way that says everybody will get this amount of anything, then that might sound okay, and that might sound fair to people, but it's not in line with the entitlement of the Lanterman Act, because you have to be given the services that the individual themselves needs. So it's an individualized approach. And once you capitate them, then you're creating a different system. So sorry about that. That's a long-winded answer to your question, but the entitlement is very important to me and to all of us. And so it's important, I think, for all of us to think about it.
I have a question. These programs that you have up running, do you have any other programs? Any other cities?
The programs, meaning the programs to support people with disabilities in California, they're in throughout the state. In California, every city has these services. They're covered by the 21 regional centers. And so they are very similar, and in most cases they're all the same. There might be some minor differences in some areas, but yes, they all have.
Are any other regional centers are aware of it?
Yes. Jesse makes sure they all are aware of what's going on. He's very good with his colleagues.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on that piece on the budget?
No question. Just say hi, Tony. It's so nice to see you here.
Hey, Dr. Lee, how are you?
Good.
You
Yeah.
look great.
You do so
You look
good.
great. You look better than me.
Okay.
So that's the budget, and I really please seriously check it out when it comes up in May this year, because it really will be a new thing for us. We haven't really lived through it in this way. So and like I said, or like I will say, there's a lot going on with the federal government for us to be concerned about as well. So that's that part. I think we've got all your questions there. The other is that ARCA, I'm a lobbyist. Don't hold that against me. This is my 15th year as a lobbyist, known as a white hat lobbyist, known because that's how we describe ourselves. But we're the good guys, and what we do is we track usually over 100 bills a year and figure out, are they going to help people with developmental disabilities, or are they going to harm people with developmental disabilities? Are they going to cause some problem in the system? And so we we dig through all of these bills. We usually dig through about 300, get it down to about 100, and then whittle it down to a smaller number by the end. So there are always a lot of bills, but this year, the legislature said, we're kind of tight on money. They already knew they were gonna be tight on money. They didn't realize it was gonna be this tight. But they said, okay, all legislators have a limit. So they cut their bill capacity in half at least. And so they didn't have a lot of bills that they could cover. But we had a few things that came up for us. And I'll tell you about the bills that we have that we carried for you. Because one of the things is we look at all the bills that are existing in the Capitol, who's doing what, and we monitor them. Most people want to know what ARCA thinks about the bills. And so we do the analysis, and then if we think we can fix them, then we will. We will offer amendments to these bills, and we'll let the legislators know how this bill could work better. Otherwise, we might not support it. And so we do that with a lot of bills. And then if we really like it, we think it's going to be really helpful, we'll spend more time and we'll advocate for it. And sometimes we'll bring advocates to the Capitol to support something. But the other thing we do is we also listen to our regional centers and our community. And so ideas come up, and they usually come up because people are having some kind of a struggle on something. And so one thing that came up this year was from our clinical directors. So all the regional centers have clinical directors and clinical staff. And what they have been talking about now, I guess for a couple of years, was a frustration that they had where people who, mainly people with epilepsy, who have been given a prescription for an inhalable medication, once they've been given that prescription, they now can't go to a day program or a group home, licensed group homes, because they fall under a category of some more restrictive medical treatment. And this is a newer medication that if you're beginning to have a seizure, then you use this spray, this inhalable, and it will interrupt the seizure. And so it's for your safety, and it will stop the seizure. And so it's a good thing. But the problem is that some people have said, well, to their doctors, hey, don't prescribe that to me, because if you give that to me, I can't go to the day program anymore. And we don't want people doing that, because the seizures can be dangerous. And so what they've asked us to do is pursue, is there any exemptions that we can get? Is some way to get this statewide? Now, there were some regional centers who have been able to get some kind of exemptions here and there, but really not all. And it really needed a rule change. And the Department of Social Services, who licenses the programs, said, no, they're not going to make a modification. If you want to do this, you're going to have to change the law. And so we said, all right, well, we'll just change the law. If you won't do it, then we'll do it. So we said, we'll change the law. And we've got a bill, AB 1172. You guys all writing that down? Let me see if you look like you're writing it down or not. AB 1172 by Assemblywoman Stephanie Wynn. And she's a mom. And she's an Assemblywoman from the Elk Grove area. And she is our author. So we wrote up this bill, and she agreed to take it on. And so she's been wonderful. We've been moving this bill through, and it went on consent on its second hearing. So that's really good. At the first hearing, they made us work hard, and we had to go through a lot to get that through. We had a clinician from East Bay come up, and we had a clinician, a doctor from Orange County fly up to be expert witnesses. And they did. And we had a lot of other support from other organizations. And in the end, we got a unanimous vote on that one. Even though they made us work so hard, we still got a unanimous vote. bipartisan. Everybody thought this was a great idea. So we've had to take some amendments here and there, but it's still a really solid bill, and it does exactly what I told you it does. And so, and then yesterday we were in hearing, early morning hearing, and it passed through unanimous. So it's now on its way to appropriations. So we're saying it's cheap. Don't put any expenses to it and let it move through. And we're hearing a little bit of rumblings from the Department of Social Services, but we're pretty confident that we'll be able to get this one through. It's really important that people who, you know, with epilepsy have this medication and that they can be able to access the services that they want, and so that they can get out of their houses. So that's a big one for us, and that's our sponsored legislation. The other big one that we heard a lot from the community is the workforce shortage. We've had in our community a workforce shortage for many years, and it's gotten worse since COVID. And so since COVID, we really have been in sort of emergency mode. And in many cases, people are not even getting the services, or they're only getting some of the services that are in their IPPs because there's not enough workers to give them the supports and services that they need. And so they'll get some, but not all. And so we're really looking at the workforce as this it's at a crisis level, and we're trying to do something different this year. And so what we did was we put a lot of work into this one. We went and we looked at some major studies that were done. There were a few seminal reports to the president. It's the President's Committee on Intellectual Disabilities, and they focused an entire report in 2017 on the workforce. And then they updated it again just last September. And so they have about 10 different recommendations of what they think would help address the workforce shortage. And so we listed them in there. There's other studies that were done just last year on the workforce, because so many people are focused on this as a problem for developmental services. And so we pulled out all these studies that were just done last year and all the recommendations that they have. And then finally, there were some bills in the 118th Congress. And in that case, we took all these ideas from those bills and we put them in this list as well. And we said, okay, there's 65 things that people have said. These are experts, and they've written these reports, and they're collecting dust. So dust them off and look at all these things. And we're going to give this to the Workforce Development Board. So the California Workforce Development Board sits in government, only reports directly to the governor, and has a whole network of local workforce development boards. And their job will be to analyze these 65 ideas, tell us where in government is the best place to implement them, who has jurisdiction for them, report that back out to all of you, the community, and then tell the governor how well we'll do this in California. So we figure, you know, you hear that old mantra about, you know, you want to keep doing the same thing and you are expecting to have a different result, but you're doing the same thing. And in this case, we're going to do something different. And so hopefully we'll get a different result. So our bill is Senate Bill 422, and it is by Tim Grayson, Senator Tim Grayson, and he is a sibling, another very committed author in the legislature. So watch for that one. That bill also has gotten even more consent. Both times, both committees that it was in the Senate, both passed unanimously. So it was in Labor Committee, and it was also in Human Services. So it's off to appropriations now. Those are our big ones. And another one that we have is called Assembly Concurrent Resolution 55. Is that a clever name? So that is the purpose for this one. It's a resolution. And Bill, this is along the lines of what you and I were talking about on the entitlement. It is the 40th anniversary of the Supreme Court decision that we have an entitlement. And so it's a recognition of the 40th anniversary, celebrating the entitlement. It sort of puts everybody on record saying that they honor this entitlement, that they appreciate this moment in history, and that they're supportive. And so it's just good, not to forget the big wins that you have over the years. And this was a big one because we would not have the Lanterman Act that we have today if this court decision did not happen. So that Assembly concurrent resolution passed the Assembly and is now on the Senate floor, and will probably go and will be passed probably tomorrow. So we're excited about that one. So those are our bills that we have for you, and they do come from you, our community and our regional centers. So that's what we have. Let me double check with you on time because I lost track of my time, which Jesse, somebody should have warned you about that. Dr. Lee knows this. And I guess Julie knows it too. How much time do I have?
We're good. We've got another 25 minutes or so.
Oh, you shouldn't
Yeah,
have
you
told me that.
continue to.
No pressure.
Well, I want to tell you what we're doing on the national level. So on the national level, we have been focused on some, fighting for trying to save Medicaid, because you probably have heard in the new Congress, there's a priority from the president and the new Congress who's in power to continue on with the tax cuts that were agreed upon in 2017, some time ago. They're due. And so what they have to decide on is that they want to continue them as is, some modification of them, or not, or just let them go away. And so they're committed to doing them. They're also looking at additional tax cuts on top of that. And so that usually means, though, that money's got to come from somewhere. So the tax cuts cost the federal government, cost all of us, $3.8 trillion over a 10-year period of time. It's still a lot of money. Eventually, that's real money, right? So $3.8 trillion. So how do they do that? One of the things that they've been looking at, and they start looking at this in January, and then in February, sort of really pushing on just a whole laundry list of different ways to cut government. And so you'll see a lot of that right now. You'll see the thing called DOGE. I don't know if anybody's heard of DOGE, but that whole initiative is meant to sort of really be a disruptor in the government structure, right? So reduce the size of government as best you can, or I guess as dramatically as you can, and then there would be some savings in there. And most people understand that the savings doesn't really come from the loss of personnel. It comes from the loss of personnel being able to move government along. Because then if government is very productive, that means government will spend all the money that it's been allotted. And so if you can stop it from being productive, the people don't like it, but it will save you money. And so there's that piece is happening. And then of course, like I said, the tax cuts, and then the additional tax cuts on top of that. And and then I believe that there's waste, fraud, and abuse in the system, in government, and in particular in Medicaid and Medicare. And so there are a lot of proposals that they're looking at that will look at the Medicaid and the Medicare program. And so what we've been looking at is what are their ideas, and there's so many different ideas that they have. And so like one of them was if you have overpayments, right? So if there's an overpayment in, say, SSI, so that happens all the time. Somebody accidentally gets more than they were supposed to. And then eventually somebody figures it out and the person has to pay it back. But we're talking about people who earn, you know, very limited income. They're living off of SSI amount, which is, you know, what, $1,000 a month, or maybe a little bit more. And so what administrations have always done is they've just said, okay, you'll pay a portion of it back. So, you know, you get $1,000, let's make you pay 10% of it back. And then you just keep paying that until you're paid off. But that way you can live your life. And so the idea was that, you know, just make them pay the whole thing. And so that's what they decided to just do. So the administration just said through the executive orders, it's just gonna make them pay the whole thing. So I don't know, that seems pretty harsh, and I can't imagine that that's gonna happen, but that's what the order says. So they can be asked to pay their entire debt back immediately. So they just won't pay them their Social Security checks until it's paid off, until the debt's paid off. So that's one idea that was there. Instead of waiting for Congress, the president just did it in an executive order. So there are some things that the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, they've got a long list of these kinds of things. And there's for Congress to make these decisions, but I guess there are some that the president can just do. And so he's done that. Congress is looking at that and other kinds of things. So those are the kinds of things that they're going to be doing when they get back home. So they're not home, they're home now. So after this week, they go back to Washington, DC. And all the committees that are there, they're all working away this entire time while their bosses are away. And they're working through a whole series of ideas. One of the ideas that got leaked the other day was basically a defunding of the DD Act, the Developmental Disabilities Act. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the Developmental Disabilities Act, it was actually something that Kennedy was working on. So that's how old it is, John F. Kennedy, and then it came into play shortly after he died, and it established the state councils on developmental disabilities. It established the state protection and advocacy systems from California that's called Disability Rights California. And then they have this whole network of university centers on excellence on developmental disabilities. And that's for the universities who study best practices or health area of developmental disabilities and advancing sort of innovations and health and medical breakthroughs. So, and then there's this whole other thing of projects of national significance, and they all fall under the DD Act. And so the proposal is to just defund it. They could eliminate it if they want to. So the proposal could end up being that they'll just eliminate it completely. And then they would have to vote on that, and then it would be gone. It would be an act, a law that they would now just remove. So that's one that we just heard about 2 days ago that is now on the table for their consideration for when they get back. But the big scare, you probably have heard about the $880 billion that Congress has to cut. And it's actually they have to cut a lot more. Like if they're going to pay for the whole tax cuts, that's 3.8 trillion plus. They want to add some more tax cuts to make it another 1.5 trillion on top of it. And so it's a lot, right? So, but they think that they can do with some 1.5 trillion in cuts, and so, and then they'll get the rest in waste, fraud, and abuse. So, I haven't seen anybody say that that's a viable option, a strategy, but maybe it is. Who knows? But it's risky. But anyway, they've got to go back and make those cuts. at that level. That 880 is the assignment for one committee. So one committee that has Medicaid in it. And that's why people are so afraid of the cuts, the proposed cuts to Medicaid, because that's the bulk of their work, that committee, and if their assignment, this is for the House. The Senate fixed theirs so they don't have that kind of number, but they're supposed to be aligned. So somehow they're both aligned, but they don't have that kind of direction. But in the House, they have an $880 billion reduction. It's over 10 years, but it's a lot of money. The original projections were every committee cut 100 billion, and then do some testing for 250, and then even 500 if it's that bad. And then the House came out and said, nope, you're going to do $880 billion in the one committee. So that's why there's such a scare. That's why there's so many people that are skeptical. But you do have a lot of legislators who are coming out and saying that they will not vote for, I mean, not a lot, but we do have a handful, enough, that are saying that they will not vote for cuts to Medicaid or Medicare. And so that would be good if it's true and they do stand up to the forces that be. But that would take some courage, and they would all have to be willing to do that. And so there are other promises being made to budget hawks. I don't know if you heard that word before, but it's really not an actual bird. These are people that just don't want the deficit to increase at all. And so they are firm on not going into debt any further. And so that's their position. And then, so they are saying they won't vote for the budget if their needs are not met. And so you've got that, and these other folks who are pushing for Medicaid, and then the Medicare piece. And so there are other groups that are being promised different things. So I just tell you that to say we have to continue on our advocacy as a community, because everybody's being promised something, and that means somebody's going to get their heart broken on their promises, and we can't afford that, because it's not only our heart but the rest of our body, right? So we have to make sure that that we stay strong, and that those who have committed to us stay committed to us. So that's what we're doing, and what we're doing across the state with all of our regional centers is we've been working on a thing called Disability Action Week, and we've been advocating all over the state. We started in February, so we're doing a lot of activity back then. You didn't hear about it because we were being very quiet, or only targeting certain districts. And now we've opened that up, and so you should be hearing about it more and more. And I know you have, because you guys were one of the allies that came and supported a district that wasn't even your district, but you came out and did that. And there are others who are doing the same thing, which is what we need. So, yes, Trish.
Hi. So I have a question. So talking about all these different cuts and all these things that are going to be coming down, what can we do to help support ARCA? So can we be emailing or writing to our local Congress, our senators? What can we do to help hear the voices be heard?
Yes, I love that question. Because yes to all the above that you had mentioned. Will, it'll be important to sort of keep track of the information that's coming out, so that you're on the message, so you'll know what it is that you're pushing back on. So like right now, we don't know what it is in Medicaid. So we've just said, hey, Medicaid in general is critically important to our community. And so fight for that. And so people have been doing that. But when they come back and they've got all these detailed cuts, then it will be what is important to you and your family on those cuts. Like, why will those cuts harm you? And then so we'll tell you what they are, and then for you to respond and let your member of Congress know what you think about it, and ask them what they're going to do about it. And it really, at this point, I personally think everybody needs to be told that. There are some advocates that think, just tell the Republicans because they're the ones who are in power. But I say put them all under a little pressure, put them all under a lot of pressure, and get them to respond to the needs of their constituents. And so I say, wherever you're from, tell your legislator anyway. So that's Congress. When we find out in May, we'll know what kind of proposals the administration has for cutting. And so at that point, we will be telling you all of these details. Some of them might be nuanced, and so we'll let you know sort of how those nuances relate to real life, what could be impacted on those. So we have to be careful with those and make sure they make sense to people. So I would just say track those things that are coming your way, and then let your legislators know right away. So your state assembly and your state senator, and then your member of Congress, and even your US senator as well. So you have two, right? So they're easy. So you know who they are, they're easy to find. Get those two to continue to fight for our community.
Now, will ARCA, like, will you, and I don't know if you would be able to answer this, but like, will you have maybe like a cheat sheet on the website, someplace where like, if I wanted to go and look at a particular, like what's being affected in Medicare, we'll just use Medicare, for example. So would you guys have like a cheat sheet? Like I can go look and see like, oh, wow, here's some bullet points of what's being impacted and kind of where the
Yes.
position is and where.
Yes, we will,
Awesome.
we'll publish them on a regular basis in the Capitol Currents. So hopefully you all get the Capitol Currents. You're all board members, so I'm sure you read them every week at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. So I'm just gonna assume that, but it's in there too. So if you're not, then Jesse will make sure that you are subscribed, because that's how we get our information out to the community. And then we'll send people to links with bigger documents on our website. But our Cap Currents is our communication device that we use for everybody. We also use social media too, so very clever with social media. So hashtags and everything.
Good to know.
Yeah, I don't
Thank
do
you.
that, as you can tell. Somebody else does it. I'm a little older. But I'm getting better. Anybody else? Because I did want to show you. Do I have like 5 minutes? Give you a little sense of our rallies that we've been doing. So, I mean,
Yeah,
can I
you're good.
share my screen? Let me see.
Yes, you can.
Okay, good. Got a little sound. I got a shared screen. Let me go to it over here. Maybe a little more upbeat. That's walking. Those guys are from Alton. Anaheim. Oh, nice. Albertson. Man. Oh boy, that's me. All right, all right. Again, I want you to have a little bit of feel for it, so that when we have these rallies, you'll want to come out because you'll expect that it's going to be fun. Not only is it meaningful, and it's a good chance for people to express themselves, but have a good time. You know, this is hard work when you're standing up for yourself like this. Sometimes people feel, you know, vulnerable. So, and you can be frustrated because, you know, you can't imagine that somebody would want to do the things that you're thinking yourself. Like, obviously, nobody would want to hurt me, but they're doing it. And so that could feel disheartening and frustrating, and you could feel alone. So it's really good to be a part of these kinds of things, these rallies where a lot of people come together and they feel the same way, and they're all there to fight for you and for themselves, for the common goal that we all have. So, and then finally, just remember that it's a long process. They want in Congress, they want to be done, have this to the president by the 9th of May, but it's most people think that's pretty unrealistic, but it could happen. But it also could happen that this doesn't get resolved until the end of the calendar year. So, which could really drag it out. So I would just say that to tell you, just remember it could be a long process, and be ready for the long arc of justice here, right? And then if all these cuts in Medicaid happen, they'll impact our state budget even more. And what we know is that when this happens, all of health and human services, safety net programs get impacted. So we'll have to do a long, hard fight. But hey, you have good music in the background and take good pictures. So hey, you can't beat that.
That's what's
So that's it. Any questions? Hope I didn't bring you down. Hope you're
No question, just a comment to say thank you, Tony, for everything that you do personally for us, and Amy, just for the work of the association. It's not easy. And you have such a gift of being able to take all of our 21 different areas of focus and bring it into a unified way. And so it works. Advocacy works. And I just think the power of community is so powerful. I'm going to drop a visit. Last week, we had Congresswoman Norma Tories come out to visit us, and I'm always amazed of the fact of where different political individuals are with how invested they are in our system. And you don't know by talking to them about their knowledge of our system and their support in ways that you don't even realize sometimes. And so I think just those relationships are everything. And just want to say thank you for helping build those bridges.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for having me with you tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you so much, Tony. I think this was, like I said before, very, very timely with just how much is going on, at the state and at the federal level. And I know that I, for one, before getting a little bit more involved in ARCA, really had no concept just of how much tracking there is of all of the different pieces of legislation at all the levels by the association, and how much work is being done on behalf of the regional center system, sort of out of perhaps our day-to-day view. So thank you so much. And those pictures were all really amazing. I spotted you a couple of times. I spotted Jesse. I spotted a couple other people. It was awesome.
Yeah. I had one of Jesse's dog too, but we didn't have attendance. We didn't
He has
get
a way of
the-
popping in.
Yeah.
He's very photogenic. So
Yes. Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Tony,
Thank you.
you so much.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay.
Good night.
All right. So, yeah, I know that anytime I talk politics around the house, my kids turn around and run the other way. But this is very important for us to know, especially since our system is completely funded by state and federal monies. So very, very interesting. All right, we are going to have a second presentation tonight by Sal Gonzalez. So it's going to be the fiscal year 25-26, the PC draft review and input. Sal, I saw you. You're here
Yes,
somewhere.
good evening, everybody. My name is Sal Gonzalez. Thank you for having me. Do want to thank all the board, community and SGPRC staff for being here. But I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start real quick with just an overview. You do have the entire PowerPoint for I'm going to start with Julie with the National Core Indicator Survey.
Sure. Great.
Oops. Okay, so just want to share with you, you do have this in your materials. And if you have any questions or concerns, I'm going to have my email at the end. So that way you do have an opportunity to share your information. But I wanted to just share that the 2022-2023 National Core Indicator for adults, we had over 400 adults participate in this survey. This is just a sample of some of the questions to kind of compare ourselves to the state, but also in areas that we're doing good, and also areas that we're kind of wanting to make sure that what can we do to improve this data. In this particular case, do you have a paid job in the community? And the California average is 21%. We're at 19%, but I think with Lynn Lee as our employment specialist, she does an amazing job of, just providing information to our service coordinators, but also to our community. So these are things that, for example, of what we're going to extract from the National Core Indicator and make sure that we're constantly improving. And part of this information, we do send the response to the department 60 days after this information is shared with all of you tonight. Another question is in regards to choice and decisions. Did you choose the people that you live with? So these are information that, if you see a blue number, we're above the statewide average. You see an orange number, areas that we're going to be focusing on. We're just making sure that we're paying attention to that data. In regards to satisfaction, do you like the home where you live? As you could see, statewide average was at 89%. We were at 93%, which is something we're very, just happy about in regards to getting that information. The service coordination, this is an important part. This is really kind of the people that are the ones working with you. with those that our families, those that we serve. But in creating, which is our IPP, which really generates all the needs and the services. In regards to one of the part of the IPP that's really important is health. And we have a dental coordinator, Christina Macasaya. We have a dental desensitization program. We have dental screenings that happen at our regional center. But a lot of times we're going to, for what we've learned is a lot of the behaviors might sometimes stem from dental care. So for us, it's really important to make sure that we're asking these questions, not only at the IPP, but making sure that the families are responding to this national core for adults, feeling that they're, being seen by dentists and information is being provided. We actually just had a Sirens to Silence event where we had our Western University as well as Christina be part of this. So we had some dental screenings there. Wanting to make sure that you're going out, that we're looking at that you're going out into communities, you're going to, shopping, you're going to run errands, making sure that you're part of this, your community involved in entertainment, whether it's farmers markets, movies, concerts, things like that. So as I mentioned earlier, part of what we're going to be doing, you do have this entire presentation. Please don't hesitate to share any information you might feel would really just improve our ways of providing this information. But what we'll be doing is we'll be providing a response to the department with the minutes for today, any type of comments. And again, we're going to make sure that if you do send me comments or call me, that we'll make sure that we put those as part of this material, okay? And at this moment, here's my email. Any questions in regards to the National Core Indicator? And I'm happy to announce that the one that is being shared right now, currently, we've met our 400 participated in this survey, so we're really happy about that. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you. Let me move on to the next presentation. So this is our performance contract process and draft. What we've done is we work with our entire team from our Department of Client Services, our Community Resource Department, as well as our entire, like I said, in this particular case, all our staff. And what we've done is we've created this draft. I am going to share a little bit about the process, and it requires us to share information with the board and community. We talk about the end of the year report from the previous calendar year. We do review the performance contract, and also, what we're doing today is preparation of the draft for our 2025-2026 performance contract. This information is now currently in our website. So thank you to our communications team for putting that. And if you go into our website under transparency and performance contract meeting, you're going to see, again, a definition of the performance contract, what's the process, but then you have the ability to click on that part where it says click here for performance contract draft, and you'll be able to really look at the entire draft at its whole. And the measures that were given by the department, our job is to create activities. So this is where we're coming to you and making sure that if you have any activities that you think might benefit us in some of these measures, please, you're going to have the opportunity to share that with me via email or calling me. And if you want to discuss this via Zoom, I'll be more than happy to schedule that with any of you. The public policy measures is for regional centers to address each public policy measure and for you as community to assist us in developing the activities. And I'm going to click here, and this is the draft you'll be able to have access to on our website. And we're happy to share that we were able to put this performance draft a couple of days ago. So thank you to again to our communications team for working with us. Let me stop sharing real quick. So this is what you're gonna see. This is our draft. And what we'll be doing is, again, we've already shared this with our equity groups. We've made sure that our community received the constant contact. And this is going to be on our website for any of you to provide any information. And what we'll do is we'll bring this performance contract draft back next month to get the approval for us to then submit to the department. But some of the areas that you'll see is really kind of what our data shows in regards to our statewide average, how we're performing. So this information is already in there. This is all information we get from the department. One of the things that I'm going to go to real quick is our policy measures, and this is measure number 1. Number of percentage of regional centers caseloads in developmental centers. So as you could see, part of our activities, we have to provide service coordinators or service providers to enhance their skills in serving individuals with challenging behaviors. So these are things that we work with our Department of Community Resources. But again, if you have any type of suggestions, we'll be more than happy to hear those. Public policy measure number 2, number percentage of minors residing with the families. And as you can see, some of the activities we have, I'm just going to share, one of them, which is to provide trainings to parents on topics that will increase the family's capability to maintain their children in the home. And these are things that we could also provide via online training. So for us, you're going to see a lot of these type of presentations not only happen from our Department of Client Services, but also through our community information forums, as well as other platforms. We're very good at sharing any type of trainings that are happening, even with partner agencies. So we want to make sure that you're getting the proper information to make sure that individuals continue to remain in the home. This will be the last one I'll go over, but public policy measure number 3, number percentage of adults residing in independent living. And as you could see, we have a lot of activities there where we work with our agency here. But for us, we do a really good job. We have a housing specialist, Lisa Cypress, who does a lot of trainings with our staff. We have trainings that she's been recorded at, where our community could have access to that. But I think for us as a regional center, they do a really good job in making sure that they're looking for partners out there, creating opportunities for our adults that are prepared for that independent living to have housing that's affordable. So for us, we're very happy to know that our regional center works really hard in making sure a lot of these activities are going to be things that we're going to be able to support these measures that are given to us. But at this point, any questions from any of you? Again, I'm going to put my email and telephone number on the chat. So in case you do have any information you would like to share, we'll be more than happy from you. But as I mentioned, we're gonna make sure that our community is aware that this information is on our website and they could provide any feedback within the next 30 days. Well, thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to Julie. Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Sal. Quick question for you. What is it that the board needs to do with regard to the information presented for the draft performance contract?
So it's just we have to have a public meeting, so we're using this opportunity to have that meeting, but also with you board members to be part of this. And our goal for next month is for you as a board, when I bring back, these are the comments I received, these are the activities we've already added to the performance contract draft, is to bring it to a vote where you approve it, and we could then move forward with submitting that to the department.
Okay, so just so everybody's clear, tonight was, here's our draft plan.
Correct.
And now between now and next month, it's for feedback, to collect feedback from the community, because this is now publicly posted on our website.
Mhm.
And there could be changes, additions as a result of that feedback?
It's additions or changes to the activities. And those are things that if you feel that there's an activity that might not work, I could then bring that back to our team and we'll make those changes. But next month, when I do bring it back, it should be the completed version.
Okay.
And, I'll share with Erica so that way you guys get it ahead of time. And at that point, we'll hopefully get it approved.
Wonderful. So next month, when you bring this back to us, it'll be essentially in its final form. We have had the opportunity to provide the feedback, and then the changes, additions be made. And so at that point, I'll be asking for a motion to approve.
Correct.
25-26 performance contract, just so all board members are on the same page as to what are our next steps with regards to this contract. So I wanted it step by step for myself and my own reminders. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions based on the information provided by Sal, and then what our next steps are as a board? All right. Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sal. Appreciate
Hi,
it.
Sal.
Hi, how are you, Tina?
Uh-huh.
All right. Gosh, you know what? If somebody takes a look at the agenda, we're actually 5 minutes ahead. Okay. Do we have any other board or community announcements? Before we do that, I'm just gonna put that in your heads for a second. For the board members, we do have a closed session that executive session that we'll be entering into immediately after this meeting. So all board members will please stay on the Zoom call. Everyone else, we're going to say thank you so much for joining us. Who from the staff needs to stay for tonight's executive session?
Good evening, President Chetney. If I can keep Lucina and Dara.
Lucina and Dara, and you. Okay. All right. So anybody have any final thoughts, comments, questions, other community announcements? All right. In that case, thank you so much to everybody for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. We will see you again in 1 month. And board members and Jesse, Dara, and Lucina, we'll stay on the Zoom.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
So much. Good night.
Happy birthday, Philip.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And everybody have a good night.
You too.
You
Bye,
happy
Philip.
birthday.
Bye.
Happy birthday. I love.
And he chose to